Hello, and welcome to the Irish Guys podcast.
Same intro alert.
I was going to change it up. I was kind of going to go for heya or hi. How's it going?
Fair enough. All good, Tom. Vesty just did the exact same thing too.
Right, okay. Well, you know what? My next go, I'm definitely going to change it up.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, so people, we're here to talk about UFC 248.
Yeah.
And the main event fight between Israel Adesanya and Yoel Romero. So we're probably just going to let Dave start this because there's three of us with him here. Gary's here, Dav's here.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
But yeah, Dave, take it away, man, because
Aye.
you know what you're talking about.
No, we've done one of these, just one of these things that I'm kind of into combat sports, and we did one recently. Tom and Vesty sat in for it with me, and we did the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder fight, a small preview for it. So there's a big fight again this weekend, and I wouldn't mind covering it as well. We haven't done any UFC yet, so I wouldn't mind doing a wee bit of UFC, but
What I will say about our last one, man, is you got me hyped for that fight. Like, you actually legit got me invested. I watched that fight because of your pitch.
Thanks,
on
lad.
it, like, so maybe the same for this.
Even for
Big pressure.
the wrestling we did at the same time too, Crippy, like we're doing more wrestling again, and I'm kind of getting back into it now just because we're talking about it.
Oh, aye.
So
aye.
it's good shit.
This podcast has definitely helped.
It has
you know,
helped
do
out.
things
Gives
like
us a reason to watch.
Well, it makes me want to watch loads of things and then cuts away all my free time so I can't watch them.
Yeah. Make us enough money, please. We need time to do this sort of carry on. But yeah, we've got Israel Adesanya and we've got Yoel Romero. Obviously, there's a big fight fan base, and hopefully there was a good few downloads on the Tyson Fury one, so maybe the same sort of people will be listening to this one too.
Yeah. They're crying out for more material.
Content.
That's it too, lad. Aye. We've got Israel Adesanya now. I sort of was talking previously to these two fellas, Gaz and Tom, Dev, before you called around because you're always in time. You'd like Israel Adesanya too. The UFC at a point in time there was kind of lacking a few characters. McGregor had obviously got his time off. They'd lost Ronda Rousey. Israel Adesanya is somebody that I think, and now probably is going to fill that role as like a really big character. John Jones obviously had his time off as well, and these are some of the big names in the UFC. Israel Adesanya is from New Zealand. He's originally from Nigeria, but he fights out in New Zealand, so he's a really good character. He had a short boxing career, and he's primarily a kickboxer.
I was going to ask you what actually is this guy's style? Like, is he a wrestler?
He's a pure striker basically.
Okay.
Like he's had boxing matches.
Did he do any like training in Thailand for like kickboxing?
It probably has, lad. These guys are multi.
I know
These
the
guys
stuff over there is brutal. Like the kickboxing.
the guys are multifaceted. Like they have to train in all assets of the next. Is there something funny there?
Dave's just lost it. I think
You okay there, Christopher?
And he's gone.
I'm perfectly fine.
Cheers. Really good that you're here. He was a kickboxer. He won 75 fights out of 80 as a kickboxer. He has a boxing record of 5-1 as well. So he's clearly just a pure striker. He's
5-1 boxing records. Pretty good.
I mean, he's primarily obviously a kickboxer, but he's also 18-0 as a mixed martial artist.
Although the people who are strikers have got a lot of problems with like grapplers
they're
and
ground-
like
they're-
submissions.
Oh, they do,
and
yeah.
ground specialists.
They do.
like,
They do. Obviously, they then transition. These are professional athletes with the mindset of a martial artist anyway. They sort of, as soon as they go into a sport like the mixed martial arts, or a lot of them are doing now, they do transition quite well. They obviously have their flaws and stuff, but there has been guys that have got to the top that have been primarily, there's like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who was a kickboxer. I think it was kickboxer or karate maybe as well. It might be karate actually. But
I suppose you have to adapt.
you have to adapt. They obviously then learn to wrestle, and they learn judo as well, and they learn Brazilian jiu-jitsu primarily to deal with grapplers. They've obviously also
the submissions.
they've also got the funds, so they'll be learning off the top guys.
Yeah.
They'll go to all the high-end schools that teach these sort of things, and they'll adapt pretty quickly. Obviously, they'll still have a weakness in them areas. But he's got an 18-0 mixed martial arts record with 14 knockouts.
Is that all the UFC?
Not all with the UFC, lad, no.
Alright, great.
When did he join the UFC?
That's
Was he
a
not
good
like
question, Gary, and I haven't got that wrote down.
I will
I'm
fact
sorry.
check.
Oh no, sorry, I have got that wrote down.
Alright.
That's
What
well
was he
done,
with
Dave.
before? Was it like?
It could have been Strikeforce or something,
Strikeforce.
maybe, lad. I'm not entirely sure. He signed in 2017. actually. So he's had a pretty quick rise to the top, obviously, as a middleweight.
Dana must have seen someone.
Oh, lad,
Aye.
he's a brilliant character. He's fought the likes of Derek Brunson, who was one of these guys that were going to be put up against him to test his style and to see if he could deal with a grappler and that sort of thing. He also had like a sort of legacy kind of fight with Anderson Silva as well, who was many people sort of say Anderson Silva's like the GOAT basically.
Yeah.
He's way past his best now, but
I
they're
was
very
gonna say,
similar strikers.
He's an aged fighter at this
Oh
point.
yeah,
isn't he?
Anderson's in his 40s now, and he had a
He's been around forever. Like.
yeah. But he had a fight with him, and it was really cool because they're very similar in the way they fight. They're sort of their flow's real good. They're very loose, pure strikers as well. And the similarities are quite close to Anderson Silva, and he had that fight, which is pretty cool, and he came through that obviously as well. He fought Kevin Gastelum in 2019 for the interim middleweight title. It could have went down as fight of the year. It was an absolute barn burner. It was a great one too. Kevin Gastelum was a short, stocky guy who was again maybe touted to be able to take him down and dominate him somewhat on the ground. And again, it didn't really happen. But in October there, he fought Robert Whittaker, who was the defending middleweight champion. At this point, Israel Adesanya was the interim middleweight champion because Robert Whittaker had some time off with injury. And Robert Whittaker was a really good middleweight champion. He's a really, really good fighter as well too. A really good blend of mixed martial arts. Good on his feet.
All-rounder,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
The problem with Robert Whittaker is, and with some of these mixed martial artists, is that a brilliant champion and everything, but doesn't have the personality. Robert Whittaker is a very quiet sort of character as well.
Stoic.
Sort of fella.
Like you have to be able to sell yourself and sell fights and like
It's
you look
wrestling,
Look at
man.
that is like
Mhm.
you
You
look
know,
at Conor McGregor and
green
Ronda
at the end of the
Rousey
day.
and you know.
Before you came, Dev, I showed these two fellas his ring walk for that fight, which is completely insane because you're just about to get into the cage in the biggest fight of your life, and he has like a dance ring walk type thing where he like has got three other dancers with him. He has this whole thing. He does like a side cartwheel flip thing, which is absolutely ridiculous. He's so athletic, and this is just before he's about to get into the cage to fight for a middleweight world title. Unbelievable.
Good showmanship.
Aye.
Value for money, like you're getting a fight and a dance show at the same time.
I mean, he can cross. He could be the UFC's next superstar if they build him right here.
The UFC's our truth.
His dance partner in this one is Yoel Romero, who's an absolute legend. I love Yoel Romero. For somebody that his grasp of English is absolutely horrific, he is so charismatic. It's unbelievable. He's at some of the funniest moments in UFC history with his call out of Michael Bisping and everything. And I'm not going to try and do it because it's hilarious. Yoel's got a crazy story too. Yoel is 42 years of age, and the man is a complete Adonis. He is in the best shape of anybody I've ever seen at that age. He's a complete freak.
Incredible. Jeez.
He's a complete freak in nature.
Yeah, that photo you showed us, like off air, that's insane.
He's a lunatic. Like, I don't know how he's in the shape he's in. It's at 42, you should not look like Yoel Romero. He's 42. He's 5'10". His record is 13-4 as a mixed martial artist. Yoel's got a fun story too, which is what you tune into these things for. He has won 6 medals, both world and Olympic, as a freestyle wrestler. Cuba's obviously a communist country, I think, still, or would be, or was at the time. I'm nearly sure it is. And he was sort of picked up in this system. Cuba's got a sporting background. It's a country that produces a lot of boxers. In fact, Yoel's uncle, I think, and numerous members of his family have been professional boxers. Cuba's got a deadly record for professional boxers, especially at the amateur level. And some of his family members were that, which kind of leads into sort of weird transition in his career later on here. Obviously a freestyle wrestler and won multiple medals as that, and got into mixed martial arts quite late, obviously. I think he got into it about 12 years ago, so he was about 30 at the time, so into it very, very, very late.
That's a crazy age to just start
Switch.
up.
To say you want
such
to be
a-
Yeah.
MMA fighter.
I think in around 34 is when he signed for the UFC proper, and has went on, and on the way up has beaten some absolute names of the sport. He beat Lyoto Machida, who was a champion as well, I think at light heavyweight. Beat Chris Weidman, a former middleweight champion himself. And then in 2017 he fought Robert Whittaker, so they've got a mutual opponent here. And he lost, and it was for the interim middleweight title. It was a unanimous decision loss to Robert Whittaker. And I think the first fight they had, I think Robert Whittaker deserved to win, definitely. It was close. Some people will say it was close, but I think definitely Robert Whittaker deserved to win that fight as a unanimous decision. And then they fought again since that, and he lost again. So it kind of sets it up that maybe obviously Israel's got a better thing here. But even when Yoel's looked down, he still came out and put in unbelievable performances. Now the second fight against Robert Whittaker was much closer. You could nearly say he won it. Like, there will be people. I think Robert Whittaker was a bit more active, but he was very close to stopping him.
Yeah.
Was it the end of the second round? I can't really remember, but he was close.
So both fights went the distance. Like.
Yeah. He lost. I think it was a split decision loss the second time round against Whittaker, but it was very close, and he nearly did stop him. Whittaker got hit with a couple of big shots. Obviously, you think with Yoel coming into the UFC and being a freestyle wrestling champion multiple times, you would think that he bases his game and his wrestling, like he takes a lot of men down. Now, he does do that, no doubt about it, but his striking has went to a completely crazy level, and he is one of the most explosive athletes I've ever seen. And
There's many like amateur wrestlers crossing over to the UFC.
Oh, definitely, lad. Daniel Cormier.
Popular, sort of.
Yeah, Daniel Cormier is a light heavyweight and heavyweight champion, and he was a wrestler as well.
He's one of the commentators.
He's one of the commentators now,
I
lad.
suppose wrestling, if you're an amateur wrestler, you're just an expert at getting someone to the ground.
Like, so many, lad.
Getting them to the ground, holding them there, like.
There's so many fighters coming across now that
almost seems like the most obvious transition. Like
wrestling is
Olympic wrestling, then straight into the UFC.
Sort of lends itself to sort of transition.
Sort of the way that you come through it, they nearly say that wrestling is one of the best bases to have compared to other martial arts. They do consider it as a martial art as well. It's maybe one of the best bases to have because of the sort of discipline that you have to. You're used to weight cutting because of competition, things like that. And there's tons of guys. Colby Covington. There's a stack of wrestlers in the UFC nowadays. But you would think that obviously Yoel would rely on that quite heavily, but his striking has went to a completely other level, and he has got some highlight knockouts that if any of you are interested in and want to watch, go and watch them. He's flying knees. He is just a complete freak athlete. It's insane.
See, I mean, I don't follow the UFC by any means at all, but like I think what would invest me more in a fighter is an actual striker over a wrestler.
Yeah.
Wrestlers kind of bore me, outside of the professional realm. But definitely I think I'd lean in more towards the striker, so I'd say Israel would be more my cup of tea here.
I know there's something about someone getting their arm in an armbar and possibly snapped.
There's good styles make fights. We had mentioned it with the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder thing with the nuclear puncher and the slick boxer. It actually went a bit crazy. Tyson went in the front foot and took it to him. Obviously, I think that he hit him in the ear and blew his equilibrium out, and it sort of stopped the fight there for Deontay Wilder.
No, let's be real here. It was because he wore the suit to the ring. That's why he lost.
Well, that's it too. But Yoel's had a few wee issues around weight. He's weighed in overweight and different things a couple of times. He's a very big man. He's got a lot of muscle. It must be very hard for him to trim the weight off.
It's dangerous stuff, that weight cut.
It's brutal, lad. But
fight milk.
Fight milk.
Official drink in the UFC.
Donald Cerrone. You're here. Most recently, Yoel fought Paulo Costa, and if there's one person who's maybe got a better looking body in the UFC, it might be him. He's an up and comer. I think he's in around 27, 28 Brazilian guy. Tank of a man too. And they fought recently. Absolute barn burner, that fight, unbelievable. He lost unanimous decision to Paulo Costa, which was tight though because it was a 3-round fight. Now non-title fights and non-main events are 3-round fights. And this was a 3-round fight against Paulo Costa. Now, definitely in the first couple of rounds, I think Costa had a hold of him and was winning the fight and probably did enough to win it. Yoel beat the living hell out of him in the third round, and there was one person coming out of that fight looking worse, and it was Paulo Costa. He was absolutely, his face was cut up like nothing ordinary. If that fight, in my opinion, was a 5 round fight,
rounds, yeah.
I think that Yoel would have handled him.
I didn't even realize that. Did you say a non-title fight?
Non-title fight and non-main event.
Oh,
Is that not a
okay.
recent change?
No, I think that's
No,
always
is it?
been there, lad. I am nearly no, but
I was always under the impression it was always 5 rounds of 5 minutes.
yeah, well, that's 3 and 5 then.
And
For
Costa came out on top in that fight.
Costa came out on top.
See,
of
that's
that.
another thing I always hear talk about is like the judging for UFC is
Yeah,
very, very
Rogan's had a
controversial.
few
That's
things to say
literally all
about
it's
it
come
recently.
from, yeah.
There's a lot of the judges in UFC who come from boxing commissions, so they don't know as much about what they're looking at as what they should. But he lost unanimously to Paulo Costa, but I'm nearly 100% sure that if that fight was going on any longer, he would have come out. He was cutting him up in the third round. Obviously, then the fight to make was Costa versus Israel Adesanya for the middleweight title. Costa had an injury, a bicep injury, and that led Izzy to basically call out Yoel Romero, and there's a few people on record, Dana White included, that nobody calls out Yoel Romero because nobody really wants to fight him, because even though he has 4 losses on his record, he is 42 years of age, he is completely explosive and at any time can knock you out and just demolish you at any point. He's a freak of nature, he's a freak athlete. But I'm really looking forward to this fight. It's again, it can be stage making matches. Obviously, the good thing is like Adesanya.
This Saturday night.
It's Saturday night, lad, in Vegas.
What UK time do you know?
I'll be about 3:30, 4.
Yeah, all right.
I usually set and I'll go to sleep, set an alarm, and then wake up and watch it. But it's a really good fight. I like both these guys. These two will be 2 of my favorite. There's another fight we're gonna have to do, fellas. I'm gonna drag you into one more. It's Tony Ferguson versus Khabib. I know that a few of you probably know Khabib and stuff like that, so it's coming up shortly too. But these 2 guys are hilarious. Israel Adesanya. I was saying this to these fellas before you arrived, Dev. Adesanya's a complete nerd. Like, you would really like him too. He's got like the 9 tails thing from Naruto tattooed around his stomach, Israel. Have you watched Death Note? No.
Yeah.
Well, he in the ring, he did like a thing where he took out like the Death Note book and like wrote a name in it when he was fighting. I think it was against Robert Whittaker. He wrote he fake wrote Robert Whittaker's name in the Death Note and then put it away.
Oh, that's so cool.
He's been cartoonized and all this sort of carry on. You'll love this, Dev. He's a massive fan of Rock Lee from Naruto.
Oh, I'm a massive fan of Rock Lee from Naruto.
I like that thing he likes.
He's done.
He's basically my brother now.
He's done the like Rock Lee pose and fights and stuff. He had like that dance sequence that I was talking about coming out. He did like the Naruto run thing. We tributes it and all, and he does the hand seals and all this sort of carry on. He's a complete nerd. Like, he talks about all that. He's got a massive Deadpool tattoo on him as well. And I really like Israel Adesanya. I really like Yoel Romero. For a man that's English is god awful.
Next to nothing.
It's the Michael Bisping thing. Just watch him talk to Michael Bisping. His English is awful, and he gets across anyway. He's cool as all hell.
Just charisma.
So much charisma. Like, they had
some
like
people like that, just oozing charisma. Like,
they had a face-off recently in the build-up to this fight, and Adesanya started dancing, and then Yoel sort of started dancing beside him, and then did like a backflip that a 42-year-old man shouldn't be able to do, like a standing backflip. And they're two really cool guys. I like the pair of them. It's a crazy fight. Yoel can stop anybody at 42 years of age. He's talked about fighting as long as Bernard Hopkins as well, and Bernard Hopkins fought into his 50s. And he's a crazy athlete. It's going to be a really good fight. The good thing about it is that what happened in the Whittaker fight with Adesanya, he'll give a hit to take a hit, or he'll take a hit to give a hit. Sorry. And
not afraid of getting punishment.
Yeah. So it could be a real barn burner like this fight. It's obviously going to be 5 rounds. It's for the middleweight title. I hope Yoel has no issues with weight, because that would then, they'll maybe still fight, but he'll not be viable to win the title. You also lose a bit of your purse and stuff if you come in overweight. Yeah. And I hope that he has no issues. I hope he makes weight, and I hope that the fight goes down really well.
When is the weigh-in then?
Weigh-in's on the Friday.
Oh, okay.
So hopefully it all goes well for him and they both get in. Yeah, I think Adesanya has the ability to take it. Again, it's one of these things where Yoel could come out of nowhere and end this fight with a flying knee. And
If I had to put you on the spot, who do you think's winning there?
I think Adesanya's good enough to win it. He's younger. That shouldn't make a difference because Yoel's got in with 26-year-olds and made them look like they're not athletes at all.
No,
And
The way you put it sounds like this guy age isn't a factor.
no, it's not. It's not really at all. So don't even know why I'm saying it. But I think Adesanya's on the up and up. I hope that he holds his record. I hope that he holds his title because there's been some back and forth between him and John Jones. In my opinion, John Jones has looked slower. Looks like he's aged. John Jones started at a very young age, and he looks like he's got a lot of miles in the clock now. There's a few more men coming into it.
He's also been through a lot.
He's been through a lot too, obviously too. And just in his fighting, he's not winning as clinically as he used to. Maybe there's been talk of maybe motivation for John Jones is that he's that much better than everybody else that it's kind of hard for him to get up, and he'll just do enough to win a fight.
Lot to live up to, like.
Yeah. But is he 6'4"? I know John. The middleweight's 185. It's a jump to 205 for the light heavy, but they're both. John's probably his biggest struggle has been against longer, taller guys with range, the same as him, Alexander Gustafsson for one. And is he 6'4" as well? Long, rangy striker, and nearly a little bit like a young John Jones. I know that there's actually not much of a difference in age between the two fellas, to be honest, but I can't even remember. Well, Izzy's 30. John can maybe be 31, maybe 32, not sure. But yeah, they're quite similar. It's just Israel's younger in mixed martial arts than he's got a shorter career. But I would like to. I don't mind if Yoel wins, but I would like maybe Izzy to win it because it could maybe set up like a super fight against John Jones down the line, and I think John Jones could be got at nowadays. And to continue I'm going to drop one thing on every podcast. Kirby keeps it lit.
The trend
Even one that he's not involved in, really. Well done, Christopher. But big fight of the weekend. I just wanted to cover it, a wee short one. I'm going to rope these boys into doing one for Khabib Tony because it's going to be unbelievable. Please God, let that fight happen because that fight's been booked about 4 or 5 times and it hasn't happened for different reasons, injuries, different things like that. So I'll have to rope you in for that too, fellas.
I need a reason to use the BT Sport app rather than watching disappointing Arsenal matches.
So thanks very much, fellas.
Yeah, no other.
No
Good cover up, Dave, and everybody tune in, watch the fight, and
we're going to release this.
like, subscribe, comment.
Yeah, we're recording this on a Tuesday night. We're going to release it tomorrow. So there'll be a few days for you to get in before this becomes a completely irrelevant piece of content.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for listening anyway. Thanks, boys, for sitting down
no
and
problem.
getting it done.
more.
Right, thanks very much for listening, folks. Cheers. And
Cheerio.
bye.